Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Live Life Golden Show. This is episode 53. Let's manifest. I have a super exciting and special guest today, my dear newest friend, Jeremy Piccott from the Point of Focus podcast. He is a nutrition therapist and a super master manifester. Welcome, Jeremy.
How are you?
I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. And we did a podcast for your podcast that I haven't launched yet. So I'm going to have everyone just go to YouTube to check that one out first. And then I'm going to share this one as well so that they can just get the bulk of the information of the incredible manifestations that we are creating together now that we found each other on this awesome life journey, and all the exciting things that I already feel like have happened since I met you, like what, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago?
Yes. Yeah.
I love divine intervention when you have a question in your heart and you're like, okay, I really need an answer to this. And then somebody pops in and like answers all your questions. And that's what Jeremy has done for me in the nutrition and, just the physical body realm and changing my belief systems around this body thing. And people have been on this journey with me since like all my body fat competitions and everything that I've gone through and the ups and the downs. And I feel like we are on an upswing that is going to be fantastic to share. So welcome.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate you having me on.
Great. Awesome. All right. So the first thing that I want to share with the listeners is, how did you come to this law of attraction stuff? Like, how did you find this way of living, and how has it changed your life? Like, what's your story around that?
So the nice thing about the law of attraction, I find, is that the life lesson comes right before you read about it. So that like, it's just so obvious that there's just other stuff going on. Right. So for me, money has been a very big part of the law of attraction. And it's where I put a lot of my focus too.
Mm-hmm. For
Right.
sure. Yeah.
So there was always a number I had in my mind. And there was a certain amount that had to go out and had to come in. And it didn't really seem like what lifestyle I had. Like I went through some ups and downs. Obviously, coming to this stuff is usually in some of our darker moments.
Sure.
But there was always a certain amount that I needed. And no matter what I was doing, that number was there always.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is this possible that this exact same number is always showing up right like seconds before I need it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes to the wire.
Totally. We call that the 11th hour of creating.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's like, it's when you're at the brink of like desperation, and then suddenly you just let go because you feel like you've done everything you can do. And I believe that's what makes the universe come in and have that invitation to support you, because you finally go, okay, I've done everything I can. So that's like when the miracles happen. We've had that happen so many times.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I kind of got like every squirrel has its nut feeling.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like just, it's like the rules.
Yeah. And it's through the course of that you learn everything always works out for you. So it's like, until you have that opportunity to build your faith, you don't really know, right?
Well, faith untested.
Yeah.
Right. And I test it because I would do some crazy stuff all the time, especially financially.
I love it.
Make some horrible decisions, and then somehow it would still all work out. So
we call those contrasting, right? Contrasting decisions that they up-level your life experience. That's all what expansion and growth is about, because we live in these like little boxes and we want to be safe, but we don't really learn anything through safety, right?
No, you got to get out of your comfort zone.
Completely. So when it comes to the Point of Focus podcast, what is your idea with that podcast? Like, how did that baby get born, and what's the energy wrapped around that?
So basically, where energy flows, I forget the saying, but things grow.
Yes.
So basically, what you focus on gets bigger.
Yes.
And I find that a lot of humans are automatically focused on a negative focus point. and then they don't understand why negative things happen.
Yeah.
So I really want to like almost punch them in the face with, um, if you put crappy vibes out, you're going to get crappy things happen,
Yeah.
right? And if you put positive vibes out, positive things just keep showing up. And the happier you feel, the better you feel. It's like the better your life gets, but you almost have to get there before it happens.
Yeah.
So just the lessons that I've learned, I really want to get them all out of my head and out there for people, because when I talk, people listen and it usually changes their day.
Mm. Changes their day, changes their life, right?
If they continue with it, if they continue to focus on it, and that's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you do necessarily to keep yourself in that like happier, higher vibe?
Well, eating good. Um, it starts there, because if you feel good and exercise, I think if you train your body and you have a healthy body and you train your spirit, as in you learn how to use it and the law of attraction, your mind will almost lose power,
Mm,
because you'll realize that it's kind of set out against you. And what needs to be stronger is your spirit and your body.
exactly. No, I totally agree with that. And I often share with the listeners like the mechanism of the mind to work on problems, to look for things that are wrong, to look for reasons to feel dissatisfied. And you're right, like training your body, I feel like for me, getting up in the morning and having that set in my day, like very first thing I get up, I work out. It sets all these amazing chemicals and hormones in my body, right? So it puts me at like the most optimal place for the day. And then it checks that off my list. So I'm not thinking, oh, I didn't work out today. I'm not beating myself up for not having my physical body as a priority. And then the mind stuff, then I come home and I meditate. But the mind stuff, I feel like is everything, because if your mind is in the right place, then you're not going to blow off your workout. Like if you're not listening to your mind, your workout is like a non negotiable, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, your mind has two components: your subconscious and your conscious. So if you do something to the point that your subconscious has the pattern, your mind will have a very hard time overriding that.
Right.
Right. So, like the first couple times that you go to the gym in the morning, you got to really force yourself. But after a little bit, you can feel pretty bad. And you're like, no, we're still going to the gym. So stop whining and get in the
Exactly.
car.
I don't actually ask myself.
I tell
I
myself.
don't ask myself. Yeah, it's like you just get up and you go, right?
Yeah. Well, it's part of your subconscious now, right? It's part of your program.
That's totally true. And it's like I always like to put it up against like brushing your teeth. Like we don't question ourselves if we're going to brush our teeth or even if we're going to take a shower. It's like that non-negotiable. That's how I am with my meditation too. We
Awesome.
don't we don't play with those things, you know.
Well, you value them after time,
Totally.
right? And you see the difference it makes in your life. And then you start talking about it because you want other people to feel that good too.
Absolutely. So you have changed what I'm doing nutritionally, and I feel like that is another level of changing the game. And in the beginning, I was, trying to get my footing to figure this out. And I've been tracking food for a long time. So I get that part of it. And now it's almost like, and you said this to me because we went through the grocery store, like it's going to click. And
Mm-hmm.
it clicked at the grocery store, but this week it clicked even further,
Mm-hmm.
and the ease and flow of knowing what to eat, of knowing when to eat, and then wrapping my belief systems around this is the best, most optimal way to fuel my body is a complete game changer.
Well, for sure. And let's talk about, it's only been a week, and I only spent 1 hour with you in the grocery store,
Yeah.
right? And 1 hour on a computer. Let's talk about your journey inside your mind this week.
Oh, he's going to put it out there now.
Oh, absolutely. We're on record. So, I
Yeah.
mean, if I can kind of outline it, here's my perspective of it.
Okay, cool.
You felt like in the beginning, I'm going to talk to you in feelings. You felt like it was too much food.
Yeah.
You're like, Jeremy, like I'm having a hard time with this. I need some
Yeah.
mindset stuff because I feel like this is too much food. And I said, okay, well, let's do a little mentality shift, and we're not trying to lose weight anymore. That's over. It's done with. We don't do that. We're building a lean, healthy body, which requires a lot of nourishment.
Yes.
So that was the first mind shift. And then 2 or 3 days later, you called me and you said, "Hey, Jeremy, I'm not eating enough." And I said, "What?" "And you're missing a meal, it turns out. So you're actually not getting 300 calories."
Right.
So what felt like too much, once you got into it and became consciously aware of what you were doing, you realized wasn't enough.
Exactly. And I like to watch energy flow in my life. So as I was doing this and feeling better and better, I felt like before this, I was definitely in some adrenal fatigue. I was doing really low carbohydrates, which I know is not good for me. But what I did was I kind of bought into a belief system from some people that I work out with, which is right for them, but it's not right for me because I've been in exhaustion for weeks, like just fighting to just stay awake all day. And so when I watch energy flow and I start to feel really good, it tells me it's confirmation, right? So the other day when I was texting with you and I was like, oh, this is too much food and I don't know if this is going to work. And I was like in confusion and I was questioning your practices. And I sat down in meditation and I started to question, like, where do these beliefs come from? And I actually did a guided meditation that I have inside my M21 Revolution group. And it was me doing a meditation and it was an emotional release. And it was all about, like, where does this belief come from? And I connected with my beliefs about food come from my mother, and they come from even being in her womb when she was trying to not gain weight when she was pregnant with me. It's crazy how these things come up. And I realized my mom was trying to lose weight her whole life. She struggled, like cabbage soup diet, Richard Simmons, like she was constantly dieting and failing at dieting. So I realized, like, I want to disconnect from that belief system. And why is Jeremy in my life? Like, why did Jeremy come into my life at this particular time when I was asking? Like, asking it is given, right? So we both came to the conclusion, like, why would source lead me wrong? And that was such a light bulb. Everything shifted that day, and to the point where I felt like I even started to release some heavier weight that I was feeling. Like, it was like a light bulb. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Can you share about that? Like, how you help people change their belief systems? Because the nutrition realm is, there's so many philosophies, so many.
Well, the nice thing about this is it'll still be the same in 100 years because it's science based,
I love that.
right?
Love
And that
that.
turns into 1,000, 2,000 for as long as we're around, as long as this information's around. Everybody burns a certain amount of calories. It's their unawareness to that causes bodies that people don't like and all kinds of unhealthy habits,
Totally.
right? Where now, if I put a plate in front of you and I say, how many servings of carbohydrates is on this plate, you should have a pretty good idea, no
I do.
matter how big that plate is.
Yeah.
Where a week ago, you never considered it in your life.
No, and I mean, I did, but I was like so against carbs that I realized the little tiny bit of carbohydrates I was taking in was so minuscule in comparison to what I'm doing now that it just makes sense that my fuel was really low. It makes a lot of sense now.
Well, of course, most people are undernourished. I mean, we want to look at two animals, which I really like to do, is a bear and a horse.
Okay.
So a bear can go 6 months without food. That's why it's got so much body fat,
Right.
because his body just doesn't trust it. Where a horse, even a pet horse, you have to feed it 3 times a day, right? And if that's a wild horse, it's going to be grazing the entire time and it's completely shredded,
Wow. That's
right?
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
let's look at bodybuilding for a second. Most females don't want to be a bodybuilder.
Right.
But think about this for a second. The game of bodybuilding is who can have the biggest body with the smallest waist.
Right.
Therefore, it becomes a game of who can eat the most food and stay lean.
Right.
That's like if bodybuilding were who could eat the least, they would all be 150 pounds and look
Right.
terrible,
Right.
right? So everybody's beliefs around food have been formed from fad diets that work because, of course, if you have no gas, you're going to lose weight.
Yeah.
And that's everybody's philosophy. I don't know how much to eat, so I'm just going to not eat enough, and I should eventually get skinny enough. But from what you've seen in the last week, is less more?
Yeah. From what I've seen just in this whole journey is that, first of all, depleting yourself of foods that you want turns into binging, like always. At the end of 6 weeks, my husband and I were we wanted all the things, right?
Right now?
Yes, totally. And it's having a lifestyle and not a diet, I think is huge. And then the other piece of that I just want to touch on is I think for a lot of us women and even men, as we get into these ages, there's so many belief systems around your 40s and 50s and not being able to lose weight, which I definitely have bought into, and I've proven it not true over the last 2 years. But you're not that hungry as you get into, like, you need less food, they say. So I think a lot of women, like you said, are undernourished, men undernourished. Like my husband, I have to kind of force him to eat. He fought me a little bit on this in the beginning because he's like, that's too much food. And now he's really buying into it. So it's great. But that's the problem, and I think that's why people gain weight as they get older, because not only are they eating the wrong things, but they're not eating enough. Like if I was to track my food before I started just on this nutrition thing in the last few years, I was eating under 1,000 calories every day,
Yep.
and I was gaining.
Yep.
Yeah.
Body didn't trust you.
Yeah, completely. So tell me a little bit about your nutrition plan and where we're going from here. So right now I'm at 1,747 calories, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A beautiful balance of protein, fats, and carbs that I'm super happy with. Where do we go from here, and how do you play with that? Like, what's the philosophy behind this kind of cycling thing we're about to do?
Well, first of all, we have to first get you up to the 1747. So with your 5 meals, it hasn't been working. So I like to explain to this, like people, like if you're going to get an expensive suit or maybe like a wedding dress made from scratch, it might not fit right the first time around.
Right.
So especially with a suit, like an expensive suit, you go in, you get it tailored, and you're like, oh, you know what? Like the waist has got to come in a bit. You got to go back and get it done.
Yep.
So the first one we gave you, you weren't quite able to do it. So now you've come back and you've said, hey, I'm not quite getting my calories. So what do we do? I say, well, could we divide it by your daily by 4 meals instead of 5? And you said, yeah, sure. So
Okay.
that's going to be step one. You're going to get that back Monday.
Yep.
So I want you to eat the 1747 and hit it for a month
Yep.
so that your body creates like a homeostasis,
Okay.
right? And it gets used to this amount of food. Now you're going to lose 1 pound of fat per week doing this, and you're going to notice your lean muscle start to love you.
Yeah.
Like it's going to come back, and you're going to be like, oh my God, it's going to feel better than it looks,
Nice.
right?
Nice. Yeah.
So once your body is used to it, I'm going to switch it up. As soon as you plateau, we're going to drop it down to 2 pounds of fat loss per week. And then we're going to kick it up the month after that to 200 calories less. Now, this is going to be scary. This is going to play with your mind
Yeah.
because you're already eating a lot of food, and I'm going to give you an extra 800 calories. And you're going to be like, oh man, I don't know.
Woo,
But
party.
yeah, so we're going to see how that goes. We're going to have
Yeah.
to update everybody because phase 3, I've lost quite a few people.
Yeah.
That being said, they didn't completely go off the rails. They just stuck with phase 2 and phase 1. And
Yeah.
they continued to
Because they
cycle
felt
with
like it was
2.
working, and it was enough food and
Some people just can't get past the beliefs,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yep.
Jeremy, I want to lose weight. You're giving me more food. That doesn't make sense. You
I
clearly don't know
literally
what you're
said I
talking about.
literally said that the other day.
Everybody says that.
And it's a mind shift. It's a total mind shift to go, I'm going to eat more food and I'm going to lose weight. But the thing that brought me to that was this massive contrast of spending 6 weeks depleting myself and not just not losing, but I gained. And
Oof.
I was working out twice a day.
Yeah.
I was super strict. I wasn't drinking alcohol.
Hmm.
And I went, okay, this is not working. So the
So,
energy always tells you, right? Yeah.
absolutely. Sorry to cut you
Yeah.
off. But imagine you had done that 2 or 3 times in your life and it didn't work. Now you're never even going to try again
Right.
because you've
Yeah.
got the support system that I can't lose weight.
Yeah. You
Well, I've
get
tried that, it
discouraged.
doesn't work.
Yeah. You get discouraged. And you're like, what is it for? Right. It's pointless.
Right? I tried all that stuff. I gave up all my favorite foods. I quit all carbohydrates for 3 months only to gain it back.
I was so like just so disappointed the day that I weighed in and realized now I've come in second 4 times in this competition and I came in first the last time. And this time to not even place felt I can't even explain it. And you just get to the point where you're like, screw it, I'm just going to eat everything. And that's basically a cycle that I've lived for a long time. But I thought for sure this time I'm going to do it because I'm doing all the right things, but it wasn't all the right things. It wasn't the right things for my body. So I think we've got to question and play with and get curious about these belief systems that are creating the opposite of what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what I
Because,
love. That's what I love about working with you is it's not just you eat this and do this. It's like, okay, we got to work with if we don't work with mindset on stuff, we're playing at half the power of the game, right?
mm-hmm,
Yeah. Speak to
100%.
that a little bit.
Well, for me, I teach a quiet mind. So
My
for me,
favorite.
mental health means my mind is quiet.
Mhm.
If my mind is quiet, I'm mentally healthy. If my mind is bothering me and pestering me with thoughts, then I need to do something about that.
Yeah, for
Now,
sure.
if I'm trying to do something and my thoughts aren't aligned with my goal, I might make it. So you almost have to be the police inside your own head.
Yeah.
And I have a goal. I'm going to write it down, and I'm not going to tolerate. What did you call it? You got a committee going on?
It's the shitty committee.
Oh my goodness.
That's my favorite word for it because it's like it literally is just this committee of like it just doesn't serve you. Like everything that and I don't know where that self-criticalness comes from. I think it's definitely based in a lot of the old stories that we picked up when we were little. But if you don't recognize that committee as somebody other than yourself, then you're going to believe it. Then you're going to
Mhm.
think it's you. And when you separate it out and you go, "Oh, that's just them and they need to be quiet." It's a total separation between your mind having control over you and you actually having control over your own energy conduction and the thoughts that you think and the way that you feel, which is
Absolutely.
everything. It's everything.
Absolutely. And for me, that really came in, like you asked me earlier how I came about this. Well, the separation from me and my mind happened when I was reading Eckhart Tolle,
Mhm.
A New Earth.
Yep.
And he was talking about thoughts as just vibrations that happen inside your head. They're old, like your subconscious is just really a tape recorder.
Yep.
And it's got everything that's ever been said. So if you're trying to do something, all those failures are going to be bubbling in the back of your mind, right?
Yep.
Um, and to really separate from the thinking is the point of meditation. So the better you get at meditation, the less control your mind has over your actions
Yep.
because you learn to guide your thoughts on a different channel, being the emotional scale.
Yep. Completely. And not it's simple but not easy.
It's, well, if you have a map and you know how to get there, it
Yeah.
becomes easier.
Totally true. And if you have, this idea of point of focus,
Mhm.
Like I did a whole podcast on changing your story, and it's one of my favorite ones I think I've ever experienced, because if you change your story, you change your life because you change the conduction of energy. So every story that I entertain now, I'm questioning that story. Like, is this going to get me to the feelings I want? Like, is this going to get me to joy, or is this taking me in the opposite direction? When you have that kind of space that meditation gives you, you are the most powerful creator I think you can be.
Yes, I like to reverse engineer it.
Okay.
So let's have a conversation. You know the emotional scale. I know you do.
Yep.
The bottom, we have powerlessness, right? Revenge, anger, fear, all those negative downward spirals.
Yep.
And then we have satisfied, which is contentment, and then positive intention, right? Hopeful expectation.
Yep.
So you can actually tune before you tell the story. So
Yeah.
let's say for a second I was on the tune, I was out of tune. I woke up, I was in a bad mood, I stubbed my toe, I was all out of tune,
Yep.
and I'm feeling powerlessness.
Yes.
And now it comes time for me to go and cook my meal,
Mm.
which I'm feeling powerlessness. So, I mean, is this even going to work anyway?
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
Where if I can go through meditation and even bring it up to, you know what I mean? Content.
Yep.
So, at content is what I try to tolerate at a bare minimum. So, I don't ever want to be less than content.
No.
Like, regardless of the circumstances in my life, if things around me look horrible, I'm still going to be content.
Yes.
Right? It was funny. A guy the other day, I heard I was at work, and one of the guys said, "Hey man, how was your day?" And he said, "Horrible. Thanks for asking." And he was like, still in a good mood. But
You're
like,
like, you're lying. You're lying. Why are you telling people that? Stop telling people that.
he was just like, it's horrible, but thanks for asking, right? He was in a great mood. His
Yeah.
vibration wasn't affected by his outside situation,
Got it.
right?
Yeah.
So the vibration being high will completely change your story. If you can meditate yourself out of powerlessness and get into content,
Yep.
awesome. Well, now I can think some positive thoughts, right? Some hopeful intentions. Hey, look, this is actually working. I'm seeing some results. I think this is going to be great, right?
Completely.
Now, if you can get yourself all the way up to an excited place, oh my God, this is actually working. I'm feeling great. I'm not hungry. I don't need to nap. Am I going to go cook my meal? Of course, I'm going to go cook my meal. What are we going to have? I'm going to have, I don't know, maybe some Greek feta chicken today. I don't know.
Totally.
Right? So tune yourself before you tell the story in the first place.
Yeah.
And that happens with your workout. Like if I get up in the morning and I'm out of tune, if I do a spin class, I've retuned myself completely.
Completely.
And the rest of my day will be different.
Completely. Without a doubt. And I've even found like walking into the gym. So I've changed my story. Like if I get up in the morning and I'm feeling a little tired, I won't tell that story. So I'm like, I get out of bed and I'm just like, this is great. You know, this is going to be a great day. And I get to the gym in an elevated state. So I'm not even leaving that to circumstance. I'm like, I'm going in here with an intention that I'm in a higher vibration. And you literally can convince yourself of this. And like you said, it can be incremental. Like we're not going from, super depressed to excited. But if we can incrementally shift, like this morning, I woke up and I thought my very first thought, so I got a Charlie horse in the middle of the night, like the worst Charlie horse I have had in probably 20 years. And it was because I got dehydrated yesterday. I was at the beach with my friends. I didn't drink enough, which I normally do, but I'm changing things. So I'm like, there's certain things that like my thirst is not calling me because I'm not depleting myself from the water that the carbohydrates is giving me, right? So I realized when I woke up this morning, I had this cramp in my leg, like I had to loosen my leg up. And I thought the very first thought was, I don't feel good. And I was like, oh no, like we're not doing that.
Right?
So I got up, I went downstairs, I'm drinking my coffee. I'm like so satisfied with my coffee. I'm drinking electrolytes. And I said to my husband, I said, even though I was up last night with this pain and I have this pain in my leg right now, I'm so happy right now. The sun was shining, the birds were singing. I was like in an elated state that literally has kept me there all day, even though I still have a little bit of a headache and I'm drinking my stuff. I'm like, and I ate a beautiful breakfast and I was like, this is fantastic.
Nice.
So we
So
have control, right?
absolutely. Once you learn, like it sounds like you shut that down super fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like that negative thought could have gained a ton of momentum in the wrong head.
Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah. Could have ruined my whole day, honestly. Like it has in the past for sure. Like I probably would have, I don't know, maybe gone back to bed and felt lethargic and
And the whole
yeah.
thing could have spiderwebs. One negative thought left alone for 16 seconds is going to turn into a bigger negative thought. And that's the whole point of focus, right?
Yep.
So the conscious shift that you made is the conscious shift that I want to teach people that they can make.
Huge. Huge. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's the missing piece in a lot of these nutritional programs or, weight loss programs and things that people are promoting. And it's funny because this is just popping up. Like, remember, did you watch the show The Biggest Loser?
Yeah.
First of all, hello, it's called The Biggest Loser, right? How many of those people, if we looked up the percentages of how many of those people that gained the weight back, they did some emotional work in that show, but I feel like they didn't really get to the core of why these people were using food to bury their emotions.
I
So
would
it's like if you don't take that mind training piece of this, like I said, you're at half power.
I'd love to touch on that on so many different levels.
Please go.
The Biggest Loser. So they went for hard work.
Yeah.
And that was their method of losing weight, was hard work. So now I want to describe my journey through this. I
Okay.
used to be a personal trainer.
Yep.
So if you wanted to hire me, I would say, awesome, we need to spend an hour every 2 or 3 days together for the next 6 months.
Yep.
That was hard work. How many hours would that be? That would be 12 hours per month. We'd be 48 hours we'd have to spend together in the 4 months,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Where now I get better results in 1 hour in the grocery store
Crazy.
than I used to get in 48 hours over the course of 4 months in the gym.
Wow.
So they're just focused on the wrong point. They're got the wrong point of focus because these people aren't going to go home and work out 6 hours a day with people screaming at them.
No.
What they need is somebody to go, hey, 90% of the food you're eating is addictive. Stop it. And for
Yep.
10 days, and you won't be addicted to it anymore.
Yep.
B, I'm going to install a gas gauge in your brain. Let's go to the grocery store.
Yep.
And now it's just a matter of time.
Completely. What would you say is the percentage of importance that nutrition plays on a healthy physical body?
I would like almost say 100%. I mean, if I eat the wrong one item, it can ruin my day.
Yeah.
Let alone have a lifestyle where I eat nothing but fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, meat, and I like cottage cheese. Okay, it's my
Same.
it's my one thing that I do. That's artificial. It's the cottage cheese.
But it's so good.
I feel good. Like I eat the lactose-free stuff, like I said, so I don't get the reaction that I'm trying to stay away from.
Right, which is inflammation and
Yeah,
brain fog and all that crazy stuff when you put really low vibrational, dense, heavy foods in your body.
yeah. Well, there's macronutrients, which we've talked about. There's
Yep.
also micronutrients. So everybody knows what a Twinkie is. And
Mhm.
if you read a Twinkie's label and an apple's label, they're going to look pretty similar. They both got about 30 grams of carbs.
Mhm.
But on a micronutrient level, the one has absolutely nothing in it, and the other one is full of live, vital vitamins, minerals, and nutrients.
And one is going to make you hungrier and drive your cravings opposed to the other that is going to help you feel satiated and give you energy and create life force. And
Yeah,
I think we know which one is which.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I'd love to talk about anti aging for a second.
Please. That's like one of my favorite topics. I'm reading a book called Younger next year. My husband and I are
Yeah.
both reading it because he's 50. He'll be 52. I'll be 50 this year. And, we're young. Like we feel young. We look young. We are not interested in anything that's going to incorporate the belief that we are getting old. Like we've had to change a lot of our sayings and a lot of the things that we were thinking because, as you get up here, it's like your body is reacting differently. But what I've realized is a lot of the body stuff that I've experienced is from lack of flexibility, like lack of stretching. And as long as I keep my body stretched out and my muscles strong, I feel much younger. And now with this incorporation of nutrition in a better optimal field, I feel incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, anti-aging, I'm going to make 2 points. One, we age because our hormones diminish. That's why we age. And the reason we burn less calories as we get older is because we lose muscle as we age.
Boom. There
So
it is.
every year after 25, we actually start losing a little tiny bit of muscle, even if we keep up with ourselves. Not to say that you can't gain muscle this year and be younger next year,
Totally.
but that's why we burn less calories as we age.
Yeah.
Now, as far as aging and the appearance of aging, I want to talk about epigenetic tags. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of epigenetics. It's one of my favorite topics. But tags, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, epigenetic tags is things that we place upon our DNA.
Okay.
So essentially, if we have two identical twins and they have the exact same DNA, they have the same hair, the same eyes, everything, that's great. They have two people, same DNA.
Yep.
As they go through life, they're going to place epigenetic tags upon their DNA,
Right.
and it actually changes their DNA. So one person takes up jogging, the other person takes up smoking,
Yep.
right? And this goes on. The other person takes up, weightlifting. The other one takes up some other horrible drinking.
Partying.
You know what I mean?
Partying.
Like, yeah,
She's
exactly,
a,
right?
she's a party girl.
So as their life goes on, they place the epigenetic tags upon their DNA. So the epigenetic tags that we place upon ourselves is going to really determine how fast we age.
Yeah.
Something else that determines it is going to be free radicals. And I'm sure your book is talking about these.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I want people to think about a nail for a second.
Okay.
So a nail that oxidizes, what happens to it?
It gets rusty.
It gets rusty. It looks terrible,
Yep.
right? It ages very poorly
Right.
if you get that nail wet. So the same thing happens inside of us. A free radical is actually an oxygen molecule that oxidizes us. It causes us basically to rust like a nail,
Wow.
which causes poor aging.
Wow.
So if we take antioxidants, blueberries, stuff like that, the
Hmm.
reason it's an antioxidant is
That makes
because
sense.
on a molecular structure, oxygen makes two bonds.
Okay.
So the molecule is actually missing one of the molecules. So there's a free bond for it to be made. So as it goes through your body, it picks up the free radical, which is the loose oxidizing oxygen, and
Right.
removes it.
Wow.
So you can clean your nail, give it a good polish
Yep.
by eating your blueberries,
Wow. That's amazing.
right?
What
Eating,
what other
eating a diet.
what other things can we do to do that?
Anything with antioxidants in it. So there's like millions of superfood foods like pomegranates, like so many. There's 160 superfoods. I have a huge list. I can
Awesome.
send you the whole list, and you'll
Yes, do
learn
it. Do it.
everything. But essentially, your antioxidants. So your blueberries daily. I mean, your red wine in some levels is going to help you out with your antioxidants. There, I'm not encouraging you to drink red wine.
Yes, if you don't drink 3 glasses, you're good.
Yeah, but essentially, how you treat your nail, and you can remove the rust that you do have with antioxidants, and that's how you will become younger next year in a really, really short, simple way of saying it.
That is amazing and so, like, in our control. I think oftentimes people get into these habits in life and they have a certain lifestyle and they think like, "Well, I can't do that. Like, that's not attainable for me." And it just starts with a decision. right? It starts with a decision and a point of focus,
Huh.
right? That's been my point of focus is I'm going to build muscle. That has been my point of focus for the last 2 years in joining my gym and hiring these trainers is I'm going to build and I'm going to create the most optimal body that I can at this age and beyond. It doesn't matter what age I am, that has been my point of focus. So it's not necessarily like, oh, I don't want to age, right? Because that's focused on the wrong thing. It's
Yeah.
like my intention is to stay young and to
Yes.
feel vital and to have life force and to just be in this optimal high vibrational way of living.
Absolutely. It all starts from your nutrition. I really truly believe that.
And I completely agree with you. And I think you've got the formula. I love science. So, one of the things that always troubled me about this protein thing, which is, I feel, a bit of a fad diet, is that like no one could ever really give me the reason why it worked. Now, it worked for a short time for me. And that's why I bought into it because I started losing but to me, it's not sustainable. And
Agreed.
the people that I've seen do it that are sustaining it, they've got, they do some binging. They definitely do some binging here and there, but they're consistent with this protein thing that literally was making me miserable because
Yeah.
you're not really enjoying. And that was one of the things my husband and I talked about last night. Like, you have to enjoy life. You've got to be able to enjoy food to a level that allows you to feel like you're really living. Like, if you constantly feel like, I just did not like what I was eating, I think that was a huge part of it too. And it wasn't giving me the energetic life force that I'm interested in. So,
Yeah.
but it could work for some people, I suppose. But
Well, I have a lot to talk about that subject as well.
yeah,
I
sure.
can give you the science of why it works.
Okay.
I can tell you why people love it. I can tell you most people don't do it properly because ketosis is not meant to be 100% protein. It's
Right.
meant to be more fat than protein, but nobody considers the perfect portion for that either.
Right.
The
Right.
reason it works, let's start there. Once your body runs out of sugar, it takes about 3 days.
Okay.
It's going to flip a switch from burning sugar to burning stored fat. It's going to make ketones.
Okay.
Okay. For every ketone it makes, it burns 2 calories.
Okay.
So basically, for every calorie you're burning 3 calories as long as your body doesn't have any carbohydrates inside of it.
Right.
Does it work? Ketosis? Absolutely. You're going to lose weight 3 times faster. Here's the problem. If you do it in the wrong ratio, 50% of the weight you're going to lose is your muscle,
Mhm. That happened. Mhm.
right? Done in perfect portions, you can do it and sustain your muscle because you're feeding your body properly. Do I recommend it? No, I don't, because you're kicking out all of the vitamins, minerals, and all of the colors of the rainbow. And like
Mhm.
you said, all of your life force.
Right.
When I eat, I feel nourished.
Totally.
Like, oh, I eat alive things and I
Yes.
feel alive when I eat them,
Completely. I totally agree with you.
right?
So talk about like what you do for people. Like if people are interested in connecting with you, kind of take them through and I'm going to share the other video that we did together which actually kind of breaks it down what we did together.
Mm-hmm.
Um but like why do you think what you're doing works so well?
Because of the epiphany that you had.
Right.
That's the point. That it's that one split second that it makes sense to you.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my God, not only does it make sense, I can do it, and this is awesome.
Yes.
So once the people have that, that's it, it's over.
Yeah.
So I just need to get them in a grocery store.
Yep.
I need to hang out with you in a grocery store on your cell phone and go,
Yep.
cool, pick up that box right there. And then you'll have it. But until I go through it with you, because everybody's different.
Yeah.
So I can't be like, hey, everybody, this is how you do it. But Golden, come to the store with me and I'd love to show you this.
I know, and that was so cool because you said like what are some of the things that you love to eat? And that was cool because it's like, oh, we're going to do this on my preference, not on your agenda, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
And here's why. I have worked with so many clients, countless clients, and I never, ever, ever pick the food source. So
Right.
therefore, you can do it with whatever you want.
Absolutely. Which
I
is
have,
amazing and freeing. It's so freeing.
for sure. Like
Yeah.
I've portioned apples, I've portioned bananas, I've portioned Pop Tarts, I've portioned roti. I had one guy, I'm like, cool, what do you have for breakfast? He's like, roti. I'm like, awesome, man. 3 hours later, what are you going to have? He's like, roti. I'm like, cool. What about lunch? He said, roti. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what's in your roti? He goes, I don't know. My mom makes it.
He doesn't even know, right?
I'm like, this is going to be a challenge.
You're like, okay, I need to take your mom to the
Yeah,
grocery store.
here you are, go shopping. Right? But any food, you're one epiphany away from loving and having a great relationship with food again.
Yes. Yes, like you even let me pick out some ice cream, and that was really freeing where I feel like, most people, especially like in my 6-week thing, like there was no ice cream.
Mm,
No.
no ice cream. I probably like shocked you when I said you could have it every 3 hours. I'm not condoning eating ice cream every 3 hours.
No, and I
At
have
the same time, I've pushed the limits of this diet more than any of my clients ever have.
yeah. So you've tested it.
Oh, I have pushed it.
That's pretty fantastic.
Right.
Yeah. And I just really feel like it works. And that's why, even though I'm only a little ways in, I share this with people all the time. The mind part of everything in our life is the key to all of our joy, all of our happiness. So the freedom that I'm experiencing is my indication of energy flow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the joy that I feel and the clarity around this in the every 3 hours thing, I don't know if that feels daunting to some people that maybe only eat 3 times a day. For me, I was trying to get so much protein in during the day that I feel like I was eating every hour and a half. So this is like freedom because I'll eat and then I can go, oh, I'm going to go out and do errands and I don't have to go, wait, what am I going to bring?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I'm going to be hungry because I was hungry like every hour. So this is way more sustainable to eat that much food and then like every 3 hours. Now, clearly, I don't have enough hours in my day to get 5 meals in, but we're going to work on that, right? Which is cool that we can play around with that as well.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to play with the number of meals. We're not going to play with the number of hours. We're just going
Right.
to increase the number of calories you're having per meal to fit it into 4 meals.
Yeah. Which is really sustainable.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My favorite part about it is once you get it, you will never feel guilty about eating something again
That's freedom.
unless you overdo it and then you're conscious of it. And unless you create a bad habit, you shouldn't get too far off the rails.
Right. Exactly. Well, you're also not in deprivation as long as you're not using food for your emotional field, like to stuff down emotions, which actually will. So you talked about guilt. So this is one thing that I found on my journey when I do energy release work with people too is when you feel guilt about a food or you beat yourself up and you listen to that shitty committee, that food becomes even denser in your body. So, we all know people that can eat whatever they want and not gain weight. It's because they don't have this story going on that affects the heavy energy. Also, when you're not in deprivation all the time, you're not running to these foods to feel better, right? Because you're satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're satisfied, a half a cup of ice cream is delightful.
Yeah,
You're not satisfied, you're going for the whole container, right?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And that's the nice thing about this too is it regulates your metabolism, it speeds up your metabolism.
I feel
So
that.
you eat, and then when your body tells you you're hungry again, you eat the same thing again. It's like you get hungry every 3 hours,
You do.
right? And that's why I called it our perfect portions because you eat when you get hungry, and you eat what feels like you would want to eat,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, which again is very freeing.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
also, like on the exercise portion of this, when you're exercising, I do feel like you gravitate towards healthier foods. Would you agree with that?
You need it. Yeah. Your body craves it.
Yeah.
At the same time, I've eaten a bodybuilder diet with just shakes and powdered sugar, really.
Yep.
Right. So it's the habits you create gain momentum.
Completely. And what would you say to people that are kind of, because I was there for a little while where I was doing the living on the shakes and bars,
Mhm.
and it works, right? It works.
Well, it's dehydrated food. So it's no different inside your body than any protein, really.
Mhm.
Like your protein powders are just dehydrated milk, eggs, right? There's plant based proteins, which is usually peas.
Right.
Yeah. Do you recommend 6 a day? No, I don't. But if it comes down to missing a meal or having a shake, I'd rather you have the shake,
Exactly. Because you're going to
right?
sustain that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if it comes
Right.
down to missing a meal or having a granola bar, I'd rather you have the granola bar with that shake,
Yeah, for sure.
right? So you got to meet people where they are. And that's why I don't impose my will on them at the grocery store. I don't go, cool, sweet. From now on, it's all bran and egg whites, right? And then people are like, what? I'm like, yep, every day. Yeah, it's not going to work,
Yeah, no.
right?
That's no fun.
Yeah.
All right, so what else can you share? What other tips of wisdom do you have about just creating, manifesting, and just creating like the most optimal experience? Because you've really tailored, I feel like you've tailored your life to, following your heart and doing what feels right. Like you shared on when we talked last about how like this nutrition thing is something that you can't let go, right? This
Absolutely
isn't
not.
your right, it's not your full-time gig, but it's that desire in your heart that calls to you.
Well,
So,
I know the impact it has.
yeah.
What other tidbits could I have for manifesting? So I started this journey a long, long time ago. A long, long
Mhm.
time ago. So you have to give things the time to grow. So the seed has to have time.
Mhm.
I wrote this into a book, which took 4 years to get published.
Yep.
I misnamed the title of that book. It wasn't a good idea. Nobody wanted to read that. I've made courses. Like I've optimization is essentially my answer. Continued daily focus if you can. But as much
Mhm.
time as you can focus, it's going to grow more.
Right.
And respect the process. Patience, patience, patience. But
Yep.
focus is the key.
What do you do? What do you do? Because the patience part of that is, I think, what trips a lot of people up and can cause people to really like forget about their dreams or, just to give up and quit before it's, so anything sustainable, before it's sustainable energy. What do you do when like the doubts kick in and you get that story going?
I've really, really eliminated as much story as possible. So people ask me this all the time, what's the story? And I'm like, there's no story. They're like, well, what do you think about this? I said, I don't.
I
Like I'm just
love
joking,
it.
obviously, but really don't think with your mind. If you can think with your stomach, it's not going to lead you in the wrong way. If you can think with your heart, you're going to do really well. If you think with your mind, it's going to trip you up almost every single time.
Love it.
Not just that, but you have to love what you're doing.
Mhm. True.
Otherwise, those obstacles are going to become walls,
Yeah.
right? And seeing obstacles as obstacles was another big thing.
Mm.
Fantastic book, Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way,
Okay.
right? Where there's going to be tons of obstacles. And you just need to focus on that obstacle until it becomes the way through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of making it be the excuse why you don't continue.
Like, here's my story of a wall that I was stuck at. Let's go with business and passion businesses to boot.
Okay.
So you really have three pieces of business that you need to have working.
Okay.
If you have these three pieces, you've got a successful business. And this is
Okay.
universal. You need enough leads, you need to close enough of those leads,
Mhm.
and you need to be able to fulfill those leads to the point that they stay around and buy more times.
Right, and talk about you, right? Because that's
Right?
word of mouth. Yeah, and then you don't have to do as much advertising once you get to that point.
There you go. That's my next step, hopefully. Right now, it's still lots on advertising, but you're going to get stuck at all of those walls. You're going to get stuck at the I don't have enough leads wall, and then you're going to have to get your phone ringing, and then you're going to have to learn what to do when your phone is ringing, what to say to get them to buy stuff, and then when they buy stuff, you have to smooth out the journey so it's not only effective but it feels good,
Yes.
right? And that might take you a full year to learn all those pieces.
Yep.
But if you're not enjoying learning how to make your phone ring, if you're not enjoying working with a sales coach and he's like, oh, you shouldn't have said this, you should have said that, right? And if you're not mastering your craft, then you just can't get tripped up by any of the obstacles. Is pretty much my point. You need to see them all as the next step of your journey.
Yeah. Well, it's a journey, right? And I think most people think like they just want the success and that was the beginning of our conversation was like I'll be happy when I get the things, right? When I get the
Mhm.
body, when I get the plan in place, when I'm really doing what I say I want to do. But the truth is, you've got to be happy now. You've got to connect with the identity of that person now in order to create that physical manifestation. It's all begins in the energetic,
Yeah,
right?
which is what I came to earlier by tuning your vibration before you even set out on the journey,
Yeah. So important.
right?
Yeah.
So, how did the obstacle become the way in that journey? I didn't know how to get leads. I had to hire
Right.
coaches, tons of resistance. Went through
Yep.
2, 3, 4 coaches before I finally learned how to get people on my calendar,
Yep.
right? Once they're
Yep.
on the calendar, it took me 6 months of calls before they started saying yes,
Yep.
right? So now that they're saying yes, I'm dealing with fulfillment challenges,
Yeah.
you know? And that's just the next piece of it. But it's all about daily focus. Like wake up and okay, what's the challenge today? What is the obstacle today? What are we working on today? How can we make this better today? Who can we talk to that can maybe spread this message today?
I love this. And asking these questions is where the answers come. It's like if we're just in the story of this isn't working, we can't attract the solutions, right? So like that whole idea of the obstacle is the way is basically taking whatever the resistance is and working with it instead of just dropping because you just don't want to move forward. And most people I think that get really stuck in this is like, well, I'm not good at that, right? Like they'll do the sales calls and they might not be good at it at first, but you don't get good unless you practice, right?
Well,
So that's how you build your confidence. That's how you build your resilience. That's how you build your faith is by continuing that journey and not giving up on something that your heart is calling you to.
I'd love to give an example.
Oh,
So I'm
yeah.
not good at sales calls was a thought that I had during my journey.
Yep.
Well, it wasn't 24 hours before I had a script to practice for the next 6 months.
There
So
you go.
that's how you ask, the universe vibrationally answers with a script. And now you need to practice that until it becomes a piece of software in your brain. I get
Totally.
into sales calls now when I don't want to be. Like I'll be talking to somebody, and like the next thing I know, I'm in a sales interaction. I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, I don't want them to think I'm just trying to sell them something now because I'm being genuine. You know what I
That
mean?
totally happened with us because the first conversation we had, you were interviewing me for your podcast. And I had asked because I just came off this thing and I'm like asking for just like the next logical, where am I going? And then you're like, oh, I'm a nutrition coach. I'm like, well, I really want to talk about that.
And then I sold you something.
Totally. That's amazing.
And then I sold you something, and I was exactly, and I was trying to interview you, but it's a piece of software now in my brain. It's in
Yes.
my subconscious,
Yeah.
right? This person needs help. I know I can help this person. I just need to let them know that.
Exactly. And being authentic and real about that, which I never felt like you were trying to sell me anything.
No,
So being authentic and real and just having the passion about what you're sharing is everything. Like if you really and truly believe that what you're doing is about the better good, about the greater good, about really helping people, then this is where we align with abundance. This is where we align with really doing what we love and making money at it, because we're not about selling, we're about giving value. It's such a different mind shift.
To a
Yeah.
certain degree.
Yeah.
I'd love to elaborate that a bit because people don't like to talk about money and the law of attraction
True.
as far as a functional way of making it, but I would love to.
Yes.
So let me demonstrate how I'm going to focus until I have $1 million in sales.
Okay.
I focused on this a long time ago. So the thought came to me, how am I going to make $1 million?
Okay.
There's a lot of different ways. Now, I might screw this math up,
Okay. That's okay.
but
Not
I
a
have
mess.
a chart and it's like you need 500 people to pay $2,000,
Yep.
right? You need 1,000 people to pay $1,000. And it just goes down the line.
Yep.
So, okay, no problem. I guess I need to make a course. And it went all the way down to like $13 a month. If enough
Yep.
people paid $13 a month, you'd have $1 million.
Yep.
So I broke it down to if I wanted to make $1 million a year, I would need to sell 2 programs at $2,000 a day.
Wow.
So far, my best 45 minutes, I brought in 3,200. I sold a $2,000 program and a $1,200 program,
Wow.
right? So it's possible.
Yes.
But this is all manifesting. This is all growing. So how do I continue to focus on that? Okay, well, I need to now make $1,000 product.
Right.
Well, how do I do that? Simple. I just continue to focus on it. What are the steps I'm going to need to take somebody through to take them from being somebody who's dieting and frustrated or whatever? This could be like, this is gap selling.
Yes.
Anytime there's a gap, there's a chance for money to be made.
Totally.
I take somebody from complete confusion to inner peace. Well, what are the steps involved to get there?
Yep.
And then those are the modules. And now zoom in on those and make point form. Those are your lessons. So
Wow.
now if I continue to focus on this for just a little bit more time, me and you could create a $2,000 course right now, I'm sure, if me and you continue this conversation,
Heck yeah. No doubt
right?
about it.
And then
Yep.
what do we need? We need to tell my team to find this certain amount of people
Yep.
and we need to get on sales calls. And that's how you actually use the law of attraction to make the money. What is the vibration of money? It's this. Awesome. What's your credit card number?
Right.
It is. Like I got into it because I love doing this, but also because I saw a very good business,
Yeah. No,
right?
absolutely.
I'm
Yep.
not above making money with it as well.
No,
So
I
how do
mean,
you use,
why would you keep yourself from that? It doesn't even make sense.
right? So you could pick $100 product, you could pick a $200 product, you could pick a $500 product and focus on that, create one, learn lead generation, learn sales, learn fulfillment, and you will have your passion business. But
Yeah.
only if you sit down and focus on
Totally. As long as so it's not like these airy fairy ideas and one day or someday or I wish I could or I should, but and this has been something I've practiced over years of my life and teaching this to other people is if you don't have some sort of action involved, and it doesn't necessarily need to be inspired action. It just needs to be something because the energy needs activation. The energy needs more activation than just your airy fairy thoughts or your split energy, because most people are split on stuff, right? Like, I want this, I wish I could have this, but they don't actually put the energetic conduction into place, which is the physical, right?
it. You have to line up with what the universe delivers,
Completely.
right? And don't run away if it's going to cost you a couple $100 to learn the next step,
Right. Yeah. That's a huge
right?
thing, like investing in yourself, right?
Right? If you just said, "Oh, universe, I need a sales coach," and then one shows up and he's like, "It's $500," and you're like, ugh. Well, you might not take that next step. Like you got to follow what the universe brings to you. If it brings you to it, it'll bring you through it.
Completely, without a shadow of a doubt. I hired a media company about 6 months ago, And it was a big deal for me because I've never really put money into the business. I've always just made money because I get a lot of word of mouth referrals, but I wanted more consistency and I wanted people who had expertise. I don't have expertise in this area. So I hired them. It was $500 a month. And I was like, I'm going to pay for this. Like, I'm going to take care of this. It's going to come out of my business. I have not once struggled to pay that bill. And they have led me to so much creativity and putting myself out there. Like they helped me to start putting myself out there, which was a fear, which we all kind of have a fear of being seen. So they helped kind of get me over that hurdle and help me to figure out who am I and what am I representing and what do I want to show the world. That $500 a month has been exponential in my growth as a person, not just on social media, which I don't even know if I can't even really quantify what they've done on social media other than helping me to figure out who I am there. And I thought I knew, but it was another level, right? Another level of expansion and growth. So opening that channel and going, I'm going to spend this money because it's going to create expansion and growth for me that is part of my connecting with abundance. That's a huge faith. That's a huge thing in faith. I think anyone who's hired any coach, it's a faith-based thing because you don't really know and you can't really quantify and you have to show up. You are like 85% of that equation. The coach is just giving you information, but if you don't follow the information, it's going to fall flat.
Yeah. Well, you just got to show up and keep doing it. I mean, keep showing up and keep trying.
Yep.
And hopefully your coach got there because they've done it themselves. You
Yes.
should always make sure that the people
True.
that you're listening to, you actually want to be where they are.
True.
Because there's a lot of noise when it
Yes.
comes to that, right? So you want to make
Oh,
sure you find the right coach as well. But again, trust the universe. If you put it out there and one just crosses your path, chances are that's the right one.
but do your research. I totally agree with that. A while back, probably right when I was starting my podcast and I wanted to figure out how to monetize it, I had found someone on Instagram and I had a sales call with this guy and it was like $2,500. And that was a big deal for me to put out that kind of money. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it and I got excited about it and I was going to put it on like a PayPal credit type thing and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't go through. So
See?
that's energy, right? Energy. So when that happened, I went, I wonder why that is. And I went to go research this girl who's promoting this monetizing podcast thing. She doesn't even have a podcast.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
she was like just starting a podcast and they were saying get on TikTok. This was one really strong indication. Get on TikTok. So I started a little TikTok and then I looked at her TikTok and I had more followers than she did. So you've got to like research and get smart and not just take people's word for it, right? And then I ended up not doing that, which saved me, I think, $2,500. And then I found somebody else that led me to this group coaching thing. And I made more money with that than anything else. And that was like, I paid $300 a month for a little while on that. And now I'm going to my next thing, like what's next kind of a thing. Like I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I've tapped out in a few of the things I'm doing. So you've got to watch energy and make sure that if you are paying for something, it's working. You're loving it. It's creating joy. It's creating passion. It's working, helping you work through fears. But once that stops, you got to watch the energy field. That's the most important thing, I think, with anything nutrition, exercise, all of it. How is this making me feel? Is this enhancing my life? Is it expanding my awareness? And is it creating the abundance I'm looking to create?
Is it heading in the right or wrong direction?
Totally.
Right? Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think I'd like to give a very, very basic my understanding of the law of attraction.
Please.
Um, Thoughts attract thoughts. And I'm going to keep it as simple as that. So I'm going to think of thoughts as one of two ways. It's either a positive thought or a negative thought.
Okay.
So all thoughts can go one of two directions. I want to lose weight. That can go one of two directions. I want to start a business. That can go one of two directions. If you focus on the positive thought for 17 seconds, it'll bring another positive thought.
Yep.
But if you let one negative thought, yeah, but I could never do that,
Yep.
it only takes one negative thought to completely close that loop from the power of the universe. But if you keep that loop open by only positive thinking, that's it. The answer will come. Continue to focus on what you're trying to manifest.
Amen. There's so much truth in that. And it goes along with that changing the story, just keeping that story as highly elevated as you possibly can. Because once you start letting that committee, start talking, you're taking yourself out of the realms of possibility, right? I love
Absolutely.
it. I love
Now,
it.
here's how you have to talk to that committee. You have to talk to it like you would talk to a female.
Okay.
Okay? Males and females are different. Females feel.
Yes.
So you have to talk to that committee in terms of how it's feeling about the subject, because the subconscious of your brain is kind of feminine, where the conscious part is kind of masculine. The conscious part is what wants the thing, but the subconscious feels like this is too much food, and that's the problem. So you almost, hey babe, like, I know it feels like too much food, but stick with this for a couple of days, because you know what I mean. Like, you almost have to talk to that committee like you would talk to a female, and I hope
Yeah.
that's not sexist.
No, I love it. It's like it's that nurturing part of us, right? Like you got to be nurturing and convincing and smooth. You got to be smooth because if you're too drastic and you're too like, it doesn't allow satisfaction, I think, in that department. Like one of my new sayings has been it's all right. It's all right. Like this happened and it's all right. And that's acceptance, right? It's not resistance, it's
Yeah,
acceptance. And it just, I don't know, there's a level of freedom in this happened and it's all right. It's all right. Like, and it's going to be all right. And everything always works out. And so it's that soothing that happens that really, I think, smooths out our vibrations and allows them to raise.
yeah, it's because you're making it feel better,
Yes.
right? When you can build a
Yes.
relationship with that voice to where you can talk to it with how it feels, you if you get it on the same page, you're going to have success. If you can
Totally.
get your thoughts aligned with your speaking, aligned with your actions, you're going to get there,
Completely.
right? So
Because
if you,
I think we often will think like positive thinking is like pushing away the negative thoughts. And it's not because our vibrations are what we're creating from. So if you've got those negative thoughts, we got to work with those. Like we've got to either interrupt them or, like you said, soothe ourselves into a better feeling place because
yeah,
otherwise they're underneath it all with the, like fear and not connecting.
absolutely. And if something doesn't feel right, people won't do it.
Totally. Man, that's next level. That's really good stuff. All right, so how do people get a chance to work with you? How do they get in touch with you? I'm definitely going to put that in the show notes. Um like what if somebody wanted to work with Jeremy, what would
Yeah.
be their next step?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I
Okay.
have a website, ourperfectportions.com. I'm running a challenge right now, which is the Straight from Source Challenge.
Love it.
So there's a Facebook group that you can get into, Straight
Okay.
from Source, and this is no artificial food for 6 weeks
Wow.
in perfect portions. So we shoot for no artificial food, but I did the grocery shop with you.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to integrate that and I'm going to get my bearings first and then we're definitely going to go to that cuz we just came off this really strict thing and I was like I just need a little time to,
It's the same
smooth
system.
smooth things out. Yeah. No, I'm
It's
excited about that and my husband is as well because when I first talked to you, you had talked about that no processed foods and I want to connect with that. I definitely want to connect with that. So, we will definitely be doing that
yeah,
soon. Yeah.
Jeremy Pickett. I'm not hard to find.
Awesome. And I will put your information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being with me. Is there like one last really simplified tip you can give people to create optimally?
If you could be satisfied in all situations from this day forward, you would live happily ever after.
I love that. I had a lady the other day in one of my groups, and she said she was reading Seat of the Soul from Gary Zukov. And he said in that the soul's whole mission here is to heal. And she's like, do you think that's true? And I said, to a level, like, I believe in healing. I believe that this is an emotional game that we've got to work on our stuff and it's expansion and growth. But I also believe that that feels a little daunting. And I love the idea of healing and then creating the most joy as possible. So I still believe in the healing game, but I also believe if you can tip the scales to joy, then you're going to continue to win. And even in the contrast and the challenges, you're still going to feel like you're winning. And that's what I'm interested in.
Nice.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time and for being here. And this was a leading edge conversation and giving us the science and the reasons. I feel even better than I did before. And I didn't know that was going to happen. So, I mean, I did know that was going to happen. Of course I did. Of course I intended that to happen.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day and peace.
Have a good
Love you all.